Hello, and welcome to my updated Final Fantasy VI Beyond Chaos rulebook for 2025. I tend to do one of these every year, sometimes more than that if like a significant update happens to the randomizer, but yeah, so we're going to end up going over the UI, and I will tell you my preferred flag sets that I like to use for most of my runs. It will be like the standard for the runs that I do, unless otherwise specified by me. At first, I kind of want to talk about what Final Fantasy VI Beyond Chaos is, if you just clicked on this video because it was recommended to you, or you were looking up Final Fantasy VI randomizers. Beyond Chaos is something really special to me. There are like a million ways that you can play. And I just want to put out there that my rulebook and my preferred flag sets are not like the standard across the board. Play however you want. These are just how I prefer to play. But yeah, it's basically Final Fantasy VI turned into a randomizer. You've probably seen stuff like this a lot, but there are many differences in Beyond Chaos. That's why it's called Beyond Chaos. There is a lot going on in this randomizer. I do want to kind of go over a little short history about it real fast. The original creator for Beyond Chaos is Abyssonym. He put in a ton of work on the first version and still does a lot of work for the community. Just last year, I think it was, they added a really big new update. Like, they added a ton of new features that made the game, like, it changed how you play entirely when you use it. So, yeah, Abyssonym is still around. Subtraction Soup came along a little later and helped to add some new features to the randomizer, and that resulted in an updated version called Beyond Chaos EX. EX has ceased production. Subtraction Soup actually retired from working on it, so the last version of that was version 5. It does still have a few features in it that are not available in like the newest version of Beyond Chaos. I don't know if they like plan to integrate some of those features into the current version of Beyond Chaos we'll talk about in a second. Probably not, because like outside of bug fixes and like small updates here and there, the dev team for Beyond Chaos is on hiatus from adding new features at the moment. But the standard version of the randomizer that I use and that like the community as a whole uses is Beyond Chaos CE, which is Community Edition. So this is the one that if there are updates, this is what's going to be updated. And yeah, this is basically like the standard version of Beyond Chaos that we'll be using moving forward, and that is going to be the UI that we're going to talk about. Also, I just want to shout out that I am really proud to have been a part of the Beyond Chaos community for so many years now, and there are so many cool people there. If you go to the Barracks, the Beyond Chaos Barracks Discord, and you have any questions that I don't cover in this video, they will immediately answer them most of the time, especially our resident encyclopedia on FF6 and Beyond Chaos, Cecil. He's usually lurking around, and he will almost always be the first one to answer a question. But even if he's not around, everybody in the community has knowledge that you might not have. There are many people who have contributed to the development of Beyond Chaos, and players that just know a lot about the game, but a lot more than me too. If I went over like the entire list of everybody who's like done so much for this community, we'd be sitting here all night. So that being said, I am going to go ahead and get into the UI and all the flags and the ones that I like to use for a standard run. Also, if you are not new to Beyond Chaos and you're not interested in hearing about the UI and the flags and stuff, there is a timestamp in the description that will just jump you ahead to where my rulebook is. Yeah, let's just get into it, man. I've done this so many times, and yeah, it still takes a while to go through all the flags. So this is what the UI looks like for the current version of Beyond Chaos CE, which is version 6.1.3. So I think the best thing that they added with this last update was the ability to toggle to dark mode, because my eyeballs, man. Anyway, so right here is your standard like top of any UI for a randomizer. You're going to want to navigate to your ROM file in this field by browsing and going to the folder that it's in. You will need an FF3 US ROM for this. And then the output directory is just where the randomizer will output the new ROM after randomization. Seed number here is just something you can put in random numbers to try and like spice up how your randomizer is going to randomize. Obviously, number to generate, you can choose how many you know, seeds you want it to randomize for you in one go with the flags that you choose. And when you're done randomizing, you'll click this generate button, but we'll get to that later. So yeah, these little drop-down menus, you are probably not going to be able to see what drops down, so I'll just go over each one of them as we go here. Let's start with normal. Normal is what I do. So this is just the base game of Final Fantasy VI that you play through with all the randomized settings. Okay, so this is like if you just want to play the game. And then you have like a race, which is Kefka at Narsh. This is from the beginning of the game all the way to the Narsh Fields battle. And it ends there. It's usually used for like community races and stuff, or like weekly seeds where people throw out and see, oh, how did you handle the seed, you know. I don't think there's a ton of racing that goes on anymore, but I could be wrong about that. I'm not really in touch with that side of the community as much as I probably should be. In the same way that I'm not much of a permadeath guy, which is another way that people play, where if you wipe one time, it's over, you kill the seed and you start over with a new seed. That's not something that I enjoy playing too much. But anyway, that's what the Kefka at Narsh game mode is. Ancient Cave is, I actually only recently learned because I've never played Lufia 2. I have played like almost every classic Super Nintendo RPG you can imagine growing up, and that one slipped under my radar, so I had no idea that all these randomizers that had an Ancient Cave mode, or were called an Ancient Cave randomizer, that was the origin for what this is. But it's basically an entrance randomizer, but if you know what an Ancient Cave is in other randomizers, that's basically what this is in here. Speed Cave, I assume, is just another way to play Ancient Cave. Maybe it shortens up the seed, I don't know. Randomized Cave also is another race flag. I don't know what it's for. I don't know how you race it, but if you want to try it out, that's up to you. And then Dragon Hunt is also a race to defeat all 8 dragons. So if you want to try any of those, maybe if you're a little bit more on the speedrunny side for Final Fantasy VI, maybe check those out. But otherwise, just click normal. Also, these flag sets over here, there are a lot of flags that are catered towards certain level of play. There's a lot of race ones I'm not going to go over, but the new player one, you might consider using this if this is your first time playing Beyond Chaos. I have not gone through to see what all of the flags are for it, because I don't ever remember using these presets when I first started years ago. I don't even remember if they were around. But yeah, there's new player, intermediate, and advanced, and chaotic. So if you want to try any of those, that's cool. I don't typically use those though. Also, if you set up some flags, you can actually go down and click Save Flag Selection, and that will create a new save in this drop-down menu. Like I have New Seed with all of my flags saved for that. So yeah, it'll ask you to save flag selection and give it a name. Usually I just skip over using presets though. So anyway, let's go ahead and get into the flags themselves. These are the things that will change how you play the game. So we're going to start in the core tab here, because this is the very first tab, and this does randomize quite a lot about the game. So the very first flag is the B flag. It's make the game more balanced by removing known bugs and exploits. If you remember from vanilla Final Fantasy VI how so many bosses were just susceptible to being vanished and then doomed, this gets rid of that. Also, the bugs, I don't know every bug in Final Fantasy VI, but this does remove every one that is known. So, you know, like the evasion bug, right? The fact that the evade stat doesn't actually work as intended in Final Fantasy VI Vanilla. It's all lumped into magic evade, so it actually separates those two stats into or that one stat into the two stats they're supposed to do, and calculates stuff correctly. Similarly, this makes it so that darkness, the status that blinds you, actually works as it was supposed to, because in Final Fantasy VI Vanilla, it literally did not lower your accuracy at all. The only thing that it did was make it so if Strago was blind, he couldn't learn a blue magic even if he saw it, and put shades on you. That's it. The goggles were totally useless in Vanilla as a relic too. So yeah, I click this because a run where you're just vanishing and dooming everything, just at that basic level, I don't want to do that. I would rather play the game. Then you got the C flag, randomized palettes and names of various things. Obviously, I turned this one on. It's just fun. Changes palettes of characters and monsters and stuff like that. So yeah, that and the names, it will change the characters' names. Obviously, you don't have to name them whatever it generates, but it will also change enemy names, except bosses. Bosses, their names remain the same, but like all of the random encounters, their names will be some mishmash that can end up really funny sometimes. So yeah, definitely click that one. I like using it. Randomized Final Dungeon. Okay, so I always turn this one on now. This is definitely not one that you want to try for like a first playthrough, because basically what the Randomized Final Dungeon is it takes Kefka's Tower, and it takes a bunch of assets from the rest of the game, and mixes them all together. And what you end up getting is all of the rooms of Kefka's Tower are still in Kefka's Tower, but you can think of it as like bridges between each part of the tower. You know, let's say you're walking into a door and you expect to end up in a certain room in Kefka's Tower like in vanilla, and instead it opens up and suddenly you have the entirety of the Narsh map, right? And every single door and exit and entrance in that town has a chance to move you to where you need to go in Kefka's Tower. You have to trial and error it. And you have to start keeping track of where all those doors go. And this happens multiple times throughout the tower and throughout all three paths. And also, even if you do find the correct path immediately, there's a chance that you have to press a button for another character's path to open up, and you have to find where that is in that map too. It's really daunting on a first playthrough, but if you've been playing for a while and you've done a few seeds, I definitely recommend doing it because you actually get something out of it. It's not just for frustration. It actually gets you something that you can't get without ticking this flag, which is the secret item. The Beyond Chaos community has created a bunch of custom items that aren't in Final Fantasy VI usually, that you can get in Kefka's Tower in a very specific room. If you want to know how to get that item, I will have a tips and tricks video. You might have actually come from it to this one and already seen. If not, go check that out. It will have the trick for getting the secret item. And basically what the secret item does, it replaces the Dirk or the rename card, one of those items, because those, obviously the Dirk is the weakest dagger in the game, not really worth keeping in, and the rename card just changes the name of your character, which is already handled by Granny on the airship. So yeah, those two items are replaced with a secret item that you can get, and that alone makes this worth doing, because you could get something really, really busted, or you could get something really, really bad. Randomize Esper spells and level up bonuses. I always click this one as well. In Beyond Chaos, there are a couple of Esper bonuses also that are brand new that were not in Final Fantasy VI, but were added by the Beyond Chaos devs. It also makes it so it's not so homogenous, which, with my flag sets and my rules, the main focus that I have is to avoid homogenous gameplay or samey feeling gameplay as much as possible. I like this, leveling up the, or changing the level up bonuses, and also the Esper spells, because then you have to work around certain problems, like you're not always going to get an Esper that teaches you Cure, like in your first batch. You know, you might have to wait, you know, until you get a later Esper, and some of the spells you learn might not even be useful either, already from that batch of Magicite, or you could learn something awesome from your first batch. Either way, I always tick that one because it is fun. Randomize enemy formations is the same thing. I tend to do that as well. This just kind of changes like what kind of formations you can run into in certain areas and stuff. Randomize dances. If I don't use a flag that we will talk about later, which I tend to always use, I would randomize dances, because basically what this does, takes Mog's dance command. And if you get it at all, you will have a bunch of different dances that are usable on different kinds of terrain and have a bunch of different spells from vanilla. They also have new names for them too. So yeah, that's really, really fun if you're using, or if you're not using a flag that I'm going to talk about later that I always use. So because I use the flag, I'm going to untick this one. Your party in the final Kefka fight will be random. What's funny about this flag is, I won't say it's like a new addition, it's just kind of more recent. So I always click this one because this didn't used to be an option way back in the day with Beyond Chaos. My first time playing, I got jump scared by the fact that I couldn't pick my party for the final Kefka battle, like when you get to set them all up in a list for going up the boss tower. No, it just flashes in and then you're in the battle and you get whoever the hell you got. So I do love that. It's such like a last minute, hey, here's a big random thing from our randomizer that you're going to have to deal with. So I always keep it ticked. It makes it a lot more interesting. If you are not into not being able to control what characters you get, you can untick it, but I love it. Randomize the stats of equipable items. Obviously, I like doing this. This is just part of the randomization factor. Feels like it should just be on by default. Randomize the Phantom Forest. So this is just basically, it just randomizes how you get through the Phantom Forest to get to the train. You might have to dick around a little bit until you find your way. This is particularly more dangerous to do if you don't use like a flag that makes it, there's a flag later that makes it so that Shadow can't leave your team. If you're not using that, you randomize the Phantom Forest, you have a higher likelihood of Shadow leaving before you ever get on the train where he can't leave, just by virtue of having more encounters for him to do it in. But I still like to tick this one because it is neat. So randomize the clock in Zozo, I always click as well. So as you know, in vanilla, the clock in Zozo is, the time for the clock is 6:10:50. And when you go up the stairs and get the chest, it's the chainsaw. If you don't tick this one and you just go and put 6:10:50 in, you will get an item from that treasure chest that is chainsaw tiered. It could even be the chainsaw. But if you randomize the clock in Zozo, which means you have to go around town and actually talk to the NPCs like you do in vanilla, and they'll give you different hints for what the time might be. If you actually do randomize the clock and you figure it out on your own, the treasure that's usually the chainsaw will actually be upgraded, I think, to Pearl Lance tier of an item, which I'm not exactly sure about that, but it definitely goes up a tier or two from the chainsaw. So you actually get rewarded for investigating what time it is. So I like to tick that one because it is super fun. Again, just like dances, I do like to click randomized blitz inputs if I have a chance of getting blitz. All the blitzes are the same still. Those aren't randomized. But the inputs you have to do will be. So as a fighting game player, I like it. But at the same time, good luck doing Bum Rush. Because it will give you some of the most wild button combinations to be able to do the most powerful blitz in the game. So yeah, I keep it off because of that flag I'm talking about, the flag that I use later down. Randomize enemy stats, obviously the more random the better, just throw that in there. Randomize window background colors, I do this, it doesn't really matter. I just like to give the randomizer the chance to like give me a cool color, because you can just go into the window and change it. It doesn't matter, but it randomizes it at the beginning of the game. So I like to give it the shot, I guess. Shuffle characters in battle commands. So basically what this does before any other randomization takes place, or it might be after randomization takes place. I don't know how it handles it, but let's just say that you have no flags randomizing what the commands are. You just have this. So it would take, like, you take Terra's list is fight morph magic item, and Strago's list is fight lore magic item. Basically what that would do is it swaps those between characters. So suddenly you have Terra, you might have Terra with like fight lore morph item, and you know, Strago with fight magic nothing item, you know. If you do that and then you do like, you randomize what the commands are, which you probably should, because that's what makes BC fun, it will basically randomize those and then swap them around. So it's just a little bit extra randomization. I usually just click it. Randomize the palettes of spells and weapon animations. This is just fun. You get like green Ragnaroks and pea-colored clean sweeps and stuff. Like, it's just fun. Why not do it? Randomize what equipment each character can wear and character stats. Always fun too. The stats will be a little bit more wild than usual, and yeah, the equipment schemes for all the characters will be randomized. You almost always get somebody that has Gauze equip scheme, so like can't equip weapons or can only equip the imp halberd, stuff like that. But you're probably gonna get that anyway. So Yeah, I always turn this on. Randomize character locations in the World of Ruin. I turn this one on every time because it makes it more fun. Basically, as you know, in the World of Ruin in vanilla, you start the game with Celeste, and then you go around getting all of your characters back once you get the airship. All of the character locations are randomized for who you find, with the exception of Edgar, Setzer, and Shadow. So Shadow will always be in the Velt Cave, Edgar will always be in Nikia, and Setzer will always be in Kalingen. You cannot randomize those. And obviously Celeste will always be on the Abandoned Island. So yeah, you can't randomize those, but every other spot is. So that means you might have to go digging to find where your Strago character might not be marching around at the Fanatics Tower. They might be in Jiddor. Your Mog character might not be in the Narsh Cave. He might actually be on Mount Zozo. So yeah, things like that, that's really fun for me. And I like to do that, because it definitely changes, like, it gives you a new thing to get more information about as soon as you get to the World of Ruin, like, where are my characters? So I think it's really fun. Swap character graphics around. This basically, I think what this does, and don't quote me on this, but I think what this does is take, like, the palette graphics and, like, switch them to different characters or something from what they initially randomized. I don't know. This one, I've never seen anything bad happen from it, so I always click it. I don't exactly know. This is maybe one of the most vague flags. That's one I'm not really super sure about, but I think that's what it does. Alright, randomized treasure, including chests, Coliseum shops, and enemy drops. If you're not checking this flag, what are you doing playing a randomizer? Like, this is what makes it fun. If you just do this and you don't use any other flags for treasure randomization, like a couple of flags we'll talk about later, every chest in the game will basically be tiered. It'll have a random item in it, or it might have a vanilla item in it sometimes, if you're lucky. It will have an item that's similarly tiered. I got it. Similarly tiered to the item from vanilla that's in that box. So, like, the Guardian chest on Mount Colts will have a better than usual item than another chest you might find, like, on, I don't know, the outside of the inside of the mountain that gives you something not so great. So yeah, randomized treasure, including chests, Coliseum shops, enemy drops, super fun. Umaro Risk. I use this every time. So basically what this does is, if you don't check this one, you will always get your Berserker in the World of Ruin. You won't have them before then. They will be one of the characters just like the Mime is. But if you use Umaro Risk, one of your characters can just randomly be the Berserker, including any of the ones you get in the World of Balance. So I really like this. It's really fun. Just do it if you're not scared. Generate new commands for characters, replacing old commands. This is like the bread and butter of Beyond Chaos to me. This is what makes it fun. So, you know, let's say you have just your lock character, whatever, and instead of rolling fight, steal, magic item, he rolls something like, I don't know, fight, slow to missile an item, you know, or fight, mimic magic item, or something like that. Anything. It could be anything, including enemy spells and things. It's not just stuff your characters can get. It's all over the board from everywhere in Final Fantasy VI. So yeah, this is just way too fun. It makes navigating the game with some of the things you get from this really, really interesting. So I always click this, and I think you should too. Shuffle Magicite's location. So this kind of shuffles them similarly tiered again with the Magicite you get in that given location. So like, you're not gonna find like Bahamut in your first batch of Magicite from Zozo, right? You might find Shote, you might find Palador, but you're not gonna find like Bahamut, Crusader, Phoenix, stuff like that in those spots. I think the highest tiered Magicite pieces that I have found in the World of Balance have been things like Alexander, Odin, Tritok, and Palador. Really, I don't think I've seen anything more powerful than those before the World of Ruin. So it's not going to be crazy, but there will be a little randomization there, which can be fun. And always have sprint shoes. Just click it. Why would you want to have to take up a relic slot for sprint shoes ever? Alright, so the next two tabs are sprites and sprite categories, but we're going to skip over those 2 tabs for now. They are really, really fun, but I want to go a little bit more in depth about them further on in the UI discussion, because there's a lot that goes into them. But just understand that Beyond Chaos has a database of a butt-ton of custom-made sprites that your characters can random to look like based on what you do with these 2 tabs. So we will get into that later. For now, let's move on to the quality of life tab. So this is actually a newer addition to the Randomizer UI. There did not used to be a quality of life tab, but this was, I think, in the last update, in fact, that this was added, and it's actually really nice. So alpha lores, just click this one. So it alphabetizes the in-battle lore list, so you don't have to scroll all the way down to find what you're looking for. If you know what letter it starts with, you can find it quick. I always have that one. Informative Miss is maybe one of the best new additions for the quality of life in this randomizer. So what this does, let's say if you are casting X Zone on a group of enemies, right? And none of the enemies get taken in by it, but you see the letters pop up. In vanilla, it'll always say miss, even if it's not going to work on something at all. In Beyond Chaos, it will say miss, null, or fail. Null means it cannot hit them, and fail is, I think that's just a different version of miss, really, honestly. Fail is most likely for magic, like X Zone, and miss is there still for, like, other attacks. So, yeah. That's really, really nice, because you can cast X Zone or you can cast Doom on something right away and tell whether or not it's ever going to work, instead of having to keep doing it and just kind of guessing whether or not they're immune to it or it's just not working. So yeah, I like this one. Always keep it ticked. Magic numbers is another new one that I like. So this basically makes it so that you can tell when you or an enemy is doing MP damage rather than HP damage. So, or healing, MP or HP. It changes the colors of the numbers. So if it's MP damage, it'll be red. And if it's HP damage, it'll be white. That's just a really nice addition there. MP party, this is something that wasn't available in vanilla. When you form a party from the airship, your character's HP is almost always refilled, but they don't refill the taking them off the airship doesn't refill their MP when you put them in there and take them out. Now it will, so that's really, really nice. I think this applies to any time you're forming a party anywhere, including in like Narsh and elsewhere. Nicer poison, this is really good on your eyes. So if you remember from vanilla, the game gets really pixely and gnarly when you're poisoned and walking around in dungeons. This drastically reduces the pixelation effect of poison when you're in a dungeon, as it says. So basically, it pixelates it, but it keeps the screen still. It doesn't wiggle so much, which is pretty nice. Questionable content is another one that should always be ticked as well, because a couple of flags we'll talk about later, Mass Effect and the various junction flags, certain items can have certain effects attached to them, and you won't know if they do or not in older versions unless you go in and manually check it in the item list. With this flag, it makes it so that there will be a question mark or an exclamation point, or both, at the end of an item that will tell you whether or not there's a significant change to it from the vanilla version. So question mark is for Mass Effect and exclamation point is for Junction. So you'll know to check it. It'll also be more informative in the shop, so you can look and see the list of items and it'll have the question marks or the exclamation points, so you can buy them to check them without having to buy every item on the off chance it might have something on it. So that's really, really nice and I like it. Region of Doom, this is a bittersweet flag for me, because I really did like flying around the map having to hunt down Doomgaze for the longest time, but what this does is it adds what I call the Doomgaze button to the console on the airship in the World of Ruin, so you can just press the button and find him immediately. You just go straight into battle with him instead of having to hunt him down. So I do use this one forever now, just because why wouldn't you? Relic My Hat is another really good one too. It combines the equipment and relic menus, so you don't have to equip your characters on their equipment screen, then go to the relic screen and do it there. It's all on one screen for them. You do lose your character's portrait in the menu when you do that, like the equip menu, which can be a little confusing if you're not paying attention to the name you're on, but for the most part, it's a pretty, like, useful flag to have on. It also makes shop menus more informative, which is really nice. It really depends on, like, if you're comfortable not having the portrait to denote who you're working on at the time. So yeah, I usually click this one. Remove flashing. So this is another one that's trying to save your eyes. So vanilla in the drop-down menu, all that does is not remove any flashing at all from anything in the game. Then the all removes flashing of every single skill in the game, most of the skills in the game, in case you're photosensitive and you don't want to deal with that. It literally has its own category for bum rush, because that is the most probably abrasive flashing of any of the moves in the game. I tend to turn on bum rush just in case I get it. I went through one whole seed where I did have bum rush, and yeah, it did start getting a little annoying with the strobing every time I did the move. So, and then another one to save your eyes is slower BG. This is for fights like with Air Force when you're falling through the sky. The background will scroll a little bit slower, so it's not as abrasive again. And then Taste the Rainbow is actually pretty helpful too, because it actually cycles through the different auras on your character for what statuses they have in battle, instead of like sticking on one for so long and you not being able to tell, like maybe your wall wore off or something, you know, stuff like that. So I like this one. Alright, moving on to the aesthetic tab. This is some fun stuff. The number one flag that you should fucking check, and if you don't, I don't know why, is Alas Draco. All this does is makes the opera a laugh riot. It changes elements of the opera while you're watching it, and it turns an previously unskippable cutscene that you've seen a million times into something really, really fun and special and hilarious. So I always recommend doing this. You will not regret it. Bingo Boingo actually generates a bingo table with a lot of the stuff from the seed you rolled as the seed is rolled, so you can play bingo with it. Usually when I play bingo, I make my own bingo boards just with different goals and stuff, but this will actually take the stuff from the seed you're rolling and make specific bingo squares to be played with it from your seed. It doesn't interact with the ROM at all. You kind of have to do it yourself. But yeah, if you're into that, go for it. I usually don't use it. Caps lock off is whatever. I don't really care. It's basically names use whatever capitalization is in the name list instead of all caps. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really use it. I don't really care. I like my characters, all of their names being all caps anyway, so it's fine. These two right here, Johnny A. Chaotic and Johnny D. Mad, really just depends on what, you know, kind of music you like. If you like the vanilla music, don't even like check either one of these. Like, if you really like it and you don't want it to change. But we'll talk about Johnny D. Mad first. This is randomizes music with regard to what would make sense in a given location. So, like, let's say you're watching the opera, and instead of, or well, no, the opera's never changed. Never mind. That's a bad example. Let's say there's the scene where Sid dies and Celeste is going to go jump off the mountain. You will usually hear the like Celeste's theme in that part. Maybe if you click Johnny D. Mad, it will change it to, I don't know, Eris's theme from FF6 or something. It'll be appropriate for the scene. Johnny A. Chaotic is way more fun. This does the exact opposite. So let's say Sid just died and suddenly you get the Specchio music from Chrono Trigger, and it's all happy while Celeste is jumping off the mountain. Like, that's way more fun to me, so I usually check this one. Not a waiter. This I never use, but I can see why you might want to if you run a lot of seeds all the time and you're not like into narrativizing the seeds you're playing so much, like I am. This is the vast majority of mandatory cutscenes are completely removed up to Kefka at Nurse. So like what this will do is if you have this checked, the moment you start your seed, you'll just be sent straight to naming Terra. I'd never use it because I don't like that. I like to just kind of just play the game how it's supposed to be played. Not supposed to be, but you know what I mean. It's a preference. And then we have Remonstrate. So Remonstrate has a little bit of a history to it because it did not used to be part of the Beyond Chaos UI itself. It used to be an external program that you had to do a lot of wonky stuff Like, when I first used it, I had to use the external program and learn how to do certain, like, setups for getting it to work. What it does is it changes enemy sprites in the game. For random encounters, bosses, you name it, it will change them to stuff from other games, stuff from all kinds of media. Like, it's really, really fun, and it, you know, like, this is why I can pull up to fight Atma on the floating continent, and suddenly I'm fighting the whole ass Death Star, you know? Like, things like that. So I would definitely check this one. It's always fun, and I always do. Okay, battle. This tab is a little weird here and there, but we will go over it, and I'll give you my thoughts on it. Collateral damage, I never use. Collateral damage, basically all equipment breaks for spells. Characters only have fight and item commands. Enemies will use items drastically more often than usual. So what this ends up doing, at least from what I've heard from people who have done it, is your enemies will likely be chucking weapons at you for quad 9s a lot. All of your stuff will break for spells, but it just makes the game really tough. Everyone that I've talked to who has done a collateral damage seed has told me they'll never do it again. So I never use this, and I probably never will, but if you want to give it a shot, go for it. Curse power. So this is pretty neat. So this changes the vanilla amount of battles that it takes to uncurse a curse shield and turn it into a paladin shield. As you know, vanilla is 255 battles, but you can drop this to 1 if you want. So you equip a curse shield, kill one enemy, and boom, you got a paladin shield. But sometimes that's not what you want to do. Typically, I will put it at 10, because the curse shield sometimes will actually teach you a spell that will go away once you get the paladin shield. The paladin shield teaches something different. Sometimes the curse shield teaches you a better spell than the paladin shield does, and you might want to give yourself a little buffer zone before it turns into a paladin shield to learn whatever spell that is. So I tend to do like 10. I think that's fair. Dance lessons. This is, again, if you're not using a flag, we'll talk about in a little bit, and you do get dance, it makes it so you can't fail dances. It removes the 50% chance that it'll fail. So it removes the Moogle stumble entirely. So if you don't want to deal with that, you can check this. But I think making sure you pay attention to what terrain you're on and what dance you can use is fun and part of the game. Dancing Madwin. This is an unbelievably fun flag, and I always use it now. This used to be and I still sometimes call it this, colloquially known in the community as Esper Allocator. What this does is it basically takes all of your Espers and all of your characters and decides that your characters can only equip certain ones. When you get your Ultima Esper, you can't just teach everybody with a magic command Ultima and just be chucking Ultimas the rest of the game. You can still get to that point with Paladin Shields if it's teaching Ultima, but I like the idea of every one of your characters having different magic lists, or at least slightly different. And also, it makes you have to really think about, if you're using junction flags and stuff, like on your Espers, what you can do with your character now, because they're only available... only one Esper is available to them. And also their stat bonuses, because if we randomize the stat bonuses like we did in the core tab, then that changes how a character is played entirely. So the different options here are Chaos, which I usually do, because Chaos is basically how it was originally with Esper Allocator. It just decides, oh, this character can equip 1 Esper. This character might be able to equip 3. This character might be able to equip 0. Basically what random does, and all the numbers under it, so if you pick 1 or 2, it says they will all be able to equip 2 Espers. And then random does that also, but it picks a random number. So Chaos is definitely where I go with this one. This also has the added thing of changing the Paladin Shield spell, which I feel like should happen anyway, but for whatever reason it is tied to this flag. Dark World we will talk about in a moment, once we get down to the other one that goes along with it usually. Easy Moto is dumb. I've never used it. If you don't want to challenge, if you just want to steamroll a seed, pick this. It's all enemies have 1 HP. So there you have it. It does exactly what it says. Electric Boogaloo. This is one that I have used before, but I don't anymore. Increases the list of spells that items can break and proc for from just magic and more summons to include almost any skill. Basically, if you can break items in your seed, this is going to make a lot more stuff break for a lot more stuff. I'm not sure if you use the no breaks flag, which I tend to, if this still increases the amount of things stuff can proc for, at least, because you don't have to break something to proc it. But yeah, I tend to leave this one off. So EXP boost and GP boost, these I use nowadays, because it used to be that when I got right before Kefka's Tower, I would do a little grind session to get my characters up around like 45, 50, level 45 to 50, with a Game Genie code to just kind of help get more EXP faster and just cut it off right then, like around 45 to 50. But I don't do that anymore because of this flag. You can just put it up to like, I only do 2 times. So 2 times on both for extra money, extra EXP, just kind of as like a way to not have to do any kind of extra grinding towards the end. We'll go down here and look at this one too. MP boost, same deal. Award multiplied magic points. I tend to put this one at 2 as well, just to learn spells faster. But that's up to you. If you want to leave it at 1, you can. If you want to go to frickin' 10, you can. Okay, so we have to talk about the Fanatics Tower in Beyond Chaos because it is a proper super dungeon. If you watch my tips and tricks video, you will hear me talk more in depth about this, but all of the level magics are actually the level that their name implies now in the Fanatics Tower, and yeah, it's a deadly place. Even if you don't tick any flags for it, there is a chance that going in a door in the Fanatics Tower will toss you to a different floor when you exit it. It's meant to be confusing, it's meant to be rough. And it still retains the magic only in the tower rule for Beyond Chaos, unless you use this flag, which is less fanatical. It disables the force magic command in Fanatics Tower, so you will have all of your commands that you've had all game available for the tower. I tend to use that now, mostly because being limited to magic really sucks, but also because I balance it out by picking a different flag that we'll show you in a second. Okay, so let's talk about Mad World and Dark World. So we'll go back up to Dark World. What this does is it drastically increases the difficulty of the seed, akin to a hard mode, mostly meant to be used in conjunction with the Mad World flag. So what this does, it makes the game really, really, really hard. But what Mad World does is it makes a true tierless seed, with enemies having a higher degree of randomization, shops being very randomized too. So basically what this means is your shop in Figaro Castle at the very beginning of the game might be selling Illuminas for 20 bucks. And also your commands are more likely to be broken-ass commands, like Fallen One, or Ultima, or things like that. I will say, if you're gonna do Dark World, you should always do Mad World. But I also will say, if you want to have a lot of fun, it will be kind of steamrolly, but if you want to have a lot of fun, just click Mad World and run a Mad World seed just to see what kind of really, really busted stuff you can get, because it can be really fun. Alright, had to open my door. It's getting a little bit toasty in here, so you might see Fury Cat make an appearance. Who knows? Alright, so Mass Effect. I pretty much always have this one on as well, to some extent. So even without checking this flag, you will have items in the randomizer that are going to have extra effects attached to them. You might have, like, a barrier ring that has 1 MP cost attached to it. So now you got an economizer barrier ring. Hell yeah. Or, on the opposite side, you could have a barrier ring that has auto sleep. So you start every battle asleep. That's basically what that is. It can do a lot more stuff than that, but in a nutshell, that's what it does. But this basically just lets you choose between a random amount, a low amount, a medium amount, or a high amount of chances for that happening on more items. Usually, I either do medium or high, because I do like a lot of chaos in my runs. So, yeah, we'll just say medium for the sake of this video. Okay, no breaks. I think I might try this again in the future without it on, because I always have this one checked now. Ever since I got a Goggles relic that I could just break for Riot Blade. Ever since that happened, and it just waylaid Final Kefka, and it, again, homogenized my gameplay to where, why would I do any of my characters' cool commands they got if I can just have them break Goggles that are buyable in any shop to do friggin' Riot Blade over and over? it defeats the individuality of each character, and again, homogenizes the gameplay, which I don't like. So yeah, I tend to turn this on just to avoid that happening. But you might want to use it for a first playthrough. You might want to turn it off, and you might want to have items that can break for spells, because sometimes they're really, really helpful to get you through certain situations if you don't have anything else that gets you through it. Like if you run into Ultros on the Leet River doing like Magnitude or something, and nobody has Float, and nobody has Gaia Gear, and Bannon is just dying, maybe you have an item in your inventory that breaks for Float, right? Or you have an item in your inventory that breaks for a really busted attack that kills Ultros before he gets to do it. If you're afraid of stuff like that, just go ahead and play with no breaks off, but I always leave it on. So, no RNG, almost all calls to the RNG are removed, and actions are much less random as a result. I don't exactly know how this flag totally works, but I can assume that, let's go back to X-Zone again. Let's say something can be X-Zoned, and you cast X-Zone, and this flag is enabled. Maybe that means that because it can get hit by it at all, it doesn't call to the RNG on whether or not it gets it. It just gets it. Like, things like that, I can imagine that's why. Or what this flag is for. There's probably a lot more to it, but I've not discovered it myself. If you want to know more, I should say, if you want to know more about some of these flags, like I said at the beginning of it, that I can't give a whole lot of information on, yeah, just go to the barracks and ask some of the guys there. They will probably know. I think everyone has played with every flag. Someone has played with every flag in here and can tell you something about it, but I don't check this because I'm scared. Plays itself is also dumb, mostly because when I play a game, I want to play the game. And basically what this does is turn the entire game into the Coliseum. All of your characters are controlled by themselves. You have no input except for equipment and stuff. They just go. So I like to be able to control that stuff. I mean, I could see how it'd be fun, where, you know, the only thing you have control over is what they equip, and then you gotta kind of pray that they can get through fights, but I don't think that I would have fun playing an entire seed like this. But you might. Random bosses I do really like. Random bosses causes boss skills to be randomized similarly to regular enemy skills. Boss skills can change to similarly powerful skills. Now, I used to think that this was by a tier system, right? And I've been corrected in the Discord for thinking that once, I think, where it was like, okay, if you have like a Fire 3 spell that an enemy uses, there's a chance it would randomize to like Ice 3 instead. It's always something within that same power level. That is not the case. It definitely is, like, power level is taken into consideration for what that skill will be, but it's a category. It's a wide category. It's not exactly same power. It can be more powerful. It can be a little less powerful, but it'll always be around the power level. So yeah, it's done by category, not by tier. So I don't know exactly how it works. I just know that this is one of the ways that you know, you can run into Storm Dragon, and instead of him casting Arrow at the beginning of the fight, or Wind Slash or whatever, he'll throw Quasar. So yeah, this can be really, really fun, and I usually use it. Rush for Power, it reverts the Vargas fight to only require that Vargas take any damage to begin his second phase, so the save-in part. I don't click this, because if you hit him once, basically what it does is throw you straight into the save-in fight. You don't have to do extra damage to him. But if this is enabled, I feel like you can't have the chance of doing enough damage to him to skip that whole part. And I like to do that. I like to see if I can do that. If you can do enough damage to Vargas to just outright kill him, you never have to do the save-in part of that battle. So I don't click this one. Sword tech speed. So this is interesting. A lot of people obviously have a problem with how slow the vanilla sword tech speed charge bar is for Cyan sword tech. So there are 5 different options here. You can do vanilla, you can do random, so you don't know what kind of speed you're going to have on it, or you can do fast, faster, and fastest. I would probably recommend doing fast, because from what I have heard, when you do faster and fastest, it becomes really, really hard to pick which sword tech you wanted to do, because it just goes so fast, and you gotta like time it to hit the right number. So I would probably say fast, if anything, if you're going to have sword tech, or if you have the chance to get sword tech. I don't mess with it because I use a flag that it doesn't matter for. So, okay, Unbreakable. I'm just going to take no breaks off for a minute just to show you. It won't let you do this with no breaks on because what this does is it causes all items to be indestructible when broken for a spell. So if you have said pair of goggles that breaks for a Riot Blade, you only need one forever because you can just keep using it over and over and it'll never break if you check this. So I keep that off because I do no breaks. And it is nice that this UI has now started to show you when it conflicts with another flag, just in case you weren't paying attention or you don't know which ones conflict with which. So that's really, really nice. All right, on to the field tab. BSIAB is exactly what it stands for, bullshit in a box. So with this, it increases the variance of monster in a box encounters and removes some sanity checks, allowing them to be much more difficult and volatile. So this is what makes for the potential of like Arvis's clock right after the Welk fight having Saber Soul in it. Bullshit in a box, scary, very scary. I always click it because I'm a freaking masochist in this game and I want to be challenged really, really hard. Because sometimes it's fun if you like run into pugs before the World of Ruin and you want to try and beat it before you move on, you know? Try it if you're feeling brave. Cursed encounters, another one that can be really, really fun. So basically for cursed encounters, you can think of the places that you get encounters in the game as zones, okay? So each zone has a set number of like enemy formations that you can run into in vanilla. What Cursed Encounters does is it increases it to have 16 possible different enemies appear in that zone. And it pulls them from other zones, basically, or increases the zone range, right? So there's a couple of ways that this can be, number one, very scary. Number two, kind of helpful in some ways. So like, if you are in the sealed cave, okay? Like the cave to the sealed gate, and suddenly you get attacked by the bomblet formation, which is a very recognizable formation. There's 6 in a row, and they're all the same enemy. You suddenly have information about what the bomblet enemies are in the burning house, which is a tough area with only 3 characters and without knowing, you know, how good your Strago character is going to be. If they have like a confuse special, you can find out right then and there before you ever get to the burning house, and you can prepare accordingly and make sure you have peace rings or something to avoid that hitting you. It also gives you information on what you're going to deal with in the Flame Eater fight because he summons bomblets. So that's just one example of how this is a good thing. How it can be a bad thing is not only can like the bomblets appear in the Cave of the Sealed Gate, but so can Dullahan as a random encounter. So yeah. Just be prepared. You're probably going to run into something that's really scary and unbeatable. I have also run into the Dream Stooges on the plains in between Jidor and Zozo on my trip to go get Terra back. So yeah, Cursed Encounters is crazy, and I love it. Dearest Malulu, especially if you're using a flag later, this can be really, really bad. Already I don't use it because it's dumb. Like, no random encounters occur. Items that alter encounter rates increase them, and EXP flag is recommended. So basically you get no encounters all game unless you go out of your way to try and get them. I don't use this one, and yeah, I'll talk about the confliction with this particular flag with another flag coming up here in a minute, but for now we'll leave it at that. Fight Club is silly. I don't click this one. Does not allow you to see the Coliseum rewards before betting, but you can often run from the Coliseum battles to keep your item. I really don't care. I would rather see what I'm fighting for instead of like hoping for something good. It kind of I assume it turns all of the rewards in the Coliseum menu into question marks, which usually only happens for stuff like the Ragnarok or the Paladin Shield, stuff like that. I just don't use it because what's the point? You know, you're just going to trial and error until you find something you want. You're going to reset if you didn't want it. Just, you know, it just seems like a waste of time to me. Speaking of time, mime time. I do use this flag. So, in Final Fantasy VI, the original version of Final Fantasy VI they were going to release, this was how you were supposed to find Go-Go in the first place. But I guess they just left it out of the final game. but Beyond Chaos has brought it back. Go-Go will be hidden somewhere in the World of Ruin disguised as another one of your characters. Bring that character to him to recruit him. So there are a few places that he can appear, and when you run across him, you will see him just there as a sprite of one of your characters. And in order to recruit him, you'll have to bring that character, and they'll do a little dance, and then the mime will join you from there. But I like the little scavenger hunt to try and find them across the World of Ruin. It's really, really cool. So yeah, I always leave this one on. Keep in mind that if you do not have this one on, your airship will have one character on it immediately when you get it in the World of Ruin. So as soon as you fly out of Daryl's tomb, you can go on your airship and you'll have a character. That is, if you don't randomize where your characters are, that character is the Gaw character, because you don't actually have to get your Gaw character back on the Velt like you do in vanilla in Beyond Chaos. So the character that will be on your airship is whoever has replaced Gaw in the World of Ruin, unless this is clicked. So yeah, I usually click this, and I have to find all my characters, including my mime. So super fun. More fanatical, I do use this one. This is the one that balances out that earlier one, less fanatical, which allows you to keep all of your commands that you have instead of making you use magic. This is the balancing for that, is it makes the Fanatic's Tower even more confusing. So sometimes, not only will doors throw you up and down floors, the stairs up will maybe loop, and you have to be able to figure out how and everything else. And I swear to God, when you're coming back down the tower after you reach the top, it's a totally different tower when you go down. So yeah, the more fanatical flag is as frustrating and as maddening as it is, really interesting and fun. I suggest clicking it. Unless it's your first time, then don't. Please, I value your sanity. So no monster in a box, as it says right now. It's conflicting with the bullshit in a box that I have clicked, but this basically does what it says. You will never find a monster in a box, ever. Random boost. This one's interesting. So what this does is it changes like the tiers of treasure you'll find throughout the game. If you put this at the highest setting, I think that it is like what it used to be with random boost. It used to be back in the day that if you put random boost at 0, that meant any item could appear anywhere. Now it's the opposite. The higher it is, the more of a chance that happens. If you do 0, it means there's no new distribution. It is uniform distribution of the treasures that you would normally get. If you want like a bunch of really busted stuff that you can find pretty much anywhere at any time, like you can get an Illumina drop from Welk, that kind of thing, then maybe put it all the way up or whatever. Dick around with it, see what you like. But usually I just keep it at this vanilla 1 here. Okay, so the scenario not taken flag, this changes the way the 3 scenarios are split up, similar or to resemble Power Panda's Divergent Paths mod. So what it does is it takes the 3 scenario split from the Returner hideout on Leet River and switches it around a little bit. There are some things you want to be aware of with this. It does make them, you know, each one equal in length, or roughly equal in length, instead of like Saban's scenario being really, really long and Bannon's scenario being really, really short. One thing you want to watch out for with this flag, particularly the Bannon side, you will only have Bannon and Terra on a team for that scenario, and the last time that you could check equipment on Terra, at least, will have been the save point before the Ultros fight, because when you're in the scenario split, you have no characters on your team except the Meat Moogle. The reason that that's a problem is because when you jump into the Bannon scenario, you're on the raft, which means you can't open your menu, and you end up having to fight a boss immediately without ever getting to change anything up. So, depending on how bad that boss is, you still have a Bannon that if he falls, you lose. And you can't change anything around on Terra to try and prepare for the fight after you see what it's doing. So it is very frightening just for that reason. Other than that, this is a fine flag to use. And I haven't gotten to a situation where that actually happened to me, where I was stuck on that fight. So, but I'm assuming it could happen. But I typically don't use that one. I like the vanilla scenario split more. Okay, Warring Triad. This is one you can try if you want. I've done it before for a bingo run. The player will start in the World of Ruin with all of the World of Balance treasure chests, along with a guaranteed set of items and more lures. So, yeah, this is basically like if you want to start halfway through the game. If you want to just start at the World of Ruin and not do any of the World of Balance, it gives you everything you could have got from the World of Balance anyway, and just lets you go from there. You can if you want. I don't do this for my regular runs, but it was really fun for the bingo run. Alright, we are in the home stretch here. We are now in the Characters tab. All combos. All skills that get replaced with something are replaced with combo skills. So when your skills in the game are replaced by the randomizer with new skills, like we did in the core tab for adding like new generated commands, it will make sure that it is a combo skill. So what happens with combo skills is it's two different skills put together into one command. So you might get, I don't know, like Maria had, one of my best characters that I've had in Beyond Chaos. Like, in every seed she's been in, she's been good. One of them, she got Absolute Zero Atomic Ray attached as one skill. So Big Dumb Ice Attack, Big Dumb Fire Attack. In the most recent seed, Outlaw Alicia and the Red Shoes Gang, we had, Alicia had Fenrir Vanish. So she would cast Fenrir on the whole party and vanish one person. Will also had Ice Rabbit Haste 2, so he would heal all of us and then haste all of us. There is some wonkiness with like targeting and stuff sometimes for certain skills that are put together, but sometimes that works in your favor. Like if you have a skill that targets a single enemy, and the second skill in that command is something like Crusader. Crusader will take the targeting of the first skill that you used, so suddenly the scariest part about Crusader, being that it hits all characters, has been removed. So now it's just a really strong single target, but really strong non-elemental damage attack. It can make unsafe skills safe. It can also turn safe skills unsafe, you know? So if you want just combos, do this. Most of the time you're going to roll at least one combo on a character anyway, so I tend not to do this unless I really want a bunch of combos. It can also make some really funny names for your commands. You know, I had Sourmouth Pummel on a character, and it was one of the funniest names. Or like Tentacle Carbuncle became Tent Car, which is basically, to me, a covered wagon. You know, like some of the names can get really, really funny. Can't Touch This is also silly. This is just another overpowered flag that I just skip. All characters have 255 defense and 255 magic defense, as well as 128 evasion and magic evasion. You're basically invincible. Cool that it's an option for people who want to use it, but not my cup of tea. Desperation. This is another one that before it had a description for this flag that was incredibly vague. It said, when the character's back is against the wall, break the wall. That was the description for this flag before. And I used it when it first came out, and I got a bunch of desperation attacks on my characters. Guarantees one character will have our limit, which is, our limit is literally just a list of all of the desperation attacks, and when you hit our limit, it picks one and does it. And it greatly increases the chance of having desperation attacks as commands. So if you want to use a bunch of them, like this could be fun for like one playthrough, because you know, you don't get to see desperation attacks that often in vanilla, just because they're pretty rare. But yeah, I would use this maybe for one run just to get to play around with a bunch of desperations. It can be fun, but I keep it off forever. Endless 9 is another one I'll probably never use. So all R skills that you roll are automatically changed to 9 times skills, and W skills you roll will become 8 times skills. So R skills, like let's say you got R limit. Well, now it's 9 times limit, so you will do it 9 times. Let's say you get, like, I've had W Ragnarok before, right? That was a cool skill. Well, suddenly it's 8 times Ragnarok. At first you think, oh, this could be neat, because I'd like to do 9 meteors in a row, you know? But, yeah, then you get stuff like, okay, well, I have 9 times X Zone. Let's try X Zone and see if it hits on this group of enemies. Oh, it nulls on all of them? Now I gotta sit through 8 more times of casting an X Zone I know won't work. See what I mean? So I just skip this one forever. Level cap is interesting for people trying to do challenge runs. What this does is it sets a maximum level for your characters, and you get to toggle it, and these appear. How should the level cap behave? Random rolls 1 level cap, apply it to all characters. Chaos rolls a different level cap for each character. The minimum value that a character can roll as their cap level, that's what you would put here, so like 1, and the maximum 99. Then this determines how it's randomized. I don't use this, but for like challenge runs, I guess you could, where you want to make sure your characters can't go past a certain level. I just leave it off. I haven't used it once. Okay, Memento Mori is really fun. This was a cool addition. I think this was also last year, maybe before, the year before that. I'm trying to remember back to when it was actually implemented. So Memento Mori, what this does is it gives your characters innate relics. So not only do you have your 2 relic slots, but in your status menu for your characters, they will have a relic that is permanently attached to them. This is really, really cool and really, really fun. Barring, like, you know, getting a relic ring on a character or something, which can really suck. Or getting even a wall ring on a character, which means you'll never be able to target them with, like, cure magic and stuff. Barring that, really what can suck is if you get, like, a Moogle Charm, innate relic for a character. Because although the Moogle Charm is not perfect in Beyond Chaos, it does not make it so you never get encounters. It just significantly reduces the encounter rate. That is enough to neuter you through the game. And as I was saying before with that Dearest Malulu flag, if you have this on and you have a Moogle Charm innate, that means every single step almost you're going to get an encounter if you have that character on your team. And if that character happens to be a required character for a part, you can't just throw them on the airship and be without that. So yeah, that's one way that it can be messed up. The other thing too, the Memento Mori flag still retains Mass Effect effects on innate relics. Unless you check a certain flag, they do not keep the junctions that are on them if they roll them. But Mass Effect will always be in effect. A bad situation could be like if one of your characters, like the barrier ring we were talking about earlier, let's say that their innate relic is a barrier ring, but that barrier ring's Mass Effect effect is auto sleep. Well, that character forever at the beginning of battle, no matter what, unless you equip them with a relic that protects from sleep, will always be asleep at the beginning of battle. So that's something that can go wrong. I still like doing this. You can actually choose how many of your characters will end up with an innate relic. I just go 14. I want everyone to have one. I think it's really, really fun. Okay, Metronome is interesting too. I definitely suggest doing this at least once, but I don't suggest doing it for a whole seed. Maybe do it for like a Kefka at Narsh run or something, because it will definitely get maddening going through the whole game doing this. All characters have Fight, Archaeos, Magic, and Item as their skill set, except for the Mime, who has Mimic instead of Fight, and the Berserker, who only has Archaeos. Archaeos is a skill in Beyond Chaos that literally pulls a random spell from the list of every single thing that you can possibly do in the game. Blitzes, Sword Techs, Goner, Engulf, Fallen, everything. Every single skill in the game is in the Archaeos command, and that's the only command your characters will get. If you want to do that, I'd suggest doing it on a short seed and not for a whole one, but that is up to you. So, Natural Magic, I never use this one. It kind of makes your Espers pretty much just like stat increase sticks. No Espers or equipment will teach spells. The only way for characters to learn spells is through leveling up if they have their own innate magic list. So if they have a magic list, they might not even learn magic by leveling up, because that's not guaranteed either unless you use another flag. So I never use this. The next one though, Natural Stats, this one, it depends on what kind of mood I'm in for the seed I want to run. No Espers will grant stat bonuses upon leveling up, so sometimes it's fun just to go through with your characters at their base stats without any way to increase them. Sometimes it's really, really fun to have over 100 magic power, you know, so by the end. So that is totally up to you, and it's definitely one that I flip-flop on when I use. So we'll just say I didn't use it for this seed roll. No Combos does the opposite of all combos. It makes sure that any skills that you get are a single command. So if you were going to get like Quasar Grand Train as a combo skill, you would either just get Quasar or just get Grand Train. So yeah, you will not get any combo skills with this clicked. Penultima is another one that I have considered using. Ultima cannot be learned by any means. So it's not going to be on the Paladin Shield, none of your Espers are going to teach it, and you can't learn it naturally. So it basically makes it so you can never have access to Ultima, which, if you play a lot of seeds, that could be pretty fun because freaking Ultima crops up a lot by the end of the game, and there will be 1 or 2 characters, most likely, that becomes their only job. So, if you want to click this, do it. If not, whatever. This is the flag that I always have checked. Replace everything. So this is the one that I've referenced to a couple of times when we were talking about like blitzes and dances and stuff. Replace everything replaces all vanilla skills that can be replaced. There is a list of the commands that are never replaced because of an issue with coding, that they literally just cannot be replaced by this randomizer. They have to be present in the game. Technically, I guess you could say fight and item, obviously, and magic. Those are always going to be around. But as far as like unique skills, jump is always on somebody. So's morph. Mimic, Magitech, I'm pretty sure is another one. Lore, and X-Magic, I think are always in the pool. No matter what, you will find those. You will get access to those. Which is, in one sense, not so great because you know you're going to get your lore user. So you know that character is going to be probably pretty good. On the other hand, that is a good thing. You're always going to get a lore user. You're never going to be deprived of blue magic, stuff like that. As far as morph and jump and all that stuff, that's not incredible that it stays in the pool, but having X magic in the pool on some character, having Magitech on somebody, especially if you rolled like Hyperdrive in your list, or Shrapnel or something, is really, really good. I do replace everything because I like to see a lot of really cool, unique commands, rather than doing like tools and slots and blitz and stuff. Oh, I don't always use it. There have been runs where I didn't use it, but I use it most of the time. The times that I didn't use it, I have never gotten the Rage command in Beyond Chaos. And I have seen Rage do some gnarly stuff from other users. Like, you get some really busted monsters that you can turn into. I would love to get Rage eventually, but I'm going to have to unclick this to do that one day. But for now, I still love... It's not enough to make me not check this flag. Let's just put it that way. Okay, this is the Shadow Stays flag. I don't click this because I still like the game to behave with like vanilla mechanics in at least some ways. This makes it so Shadow can't run away once he's on your team in the spots that he can run from. So, like when you get him at the beginning of Sabin's scenario, he can run anytime between when you get him and the Phantom Train. When you're on the Phantom Train, he can't run, but once you get off, he will. That makes it so the moment you recruit him, he doesn't run away until the game says he's leaving, like at Barren Falls. Same with if you recruit him in Kalingen, on your way to find Terra and Zozo. If he doesn't run away in Vanilla during that whole scene, he leaves after you're talking about going to the Magitech research facility. Yeah, it just makes it so he can't run then at all. If you don't want to deal with the chance of him running away, click this, but I really don't care. If he wants to run, he can run. If he does run and I didn't want to lose him, I'll reset. Whatever. So Supernatural, I don't click this one because I like the randomness of, are they going to learn magic or are they not going to learn magic? They got a magic command. Supernatural makes it so that any character with the magic command will have natural magic, no matter what. So it guarantees it. So I leave that one off. Suplex Rex is a meme flag. There's a few of those that we'll get into. All characters use the Sabin Sprite, have a name similar to Sabin, have the Blitz and Suplex commands, and can hit every enemy in the game with Suplex. So this is just basically about Suplex Citying the whole seed if you wanted to. Which, I mean, I think the novelty would wear off after, like, South Figaro, honestly. So yeah, that's up to you if you want to try that out, but it's not my cup of tea either. Alright, game breaking tab. I don't use any of these. I don't think I've ever messed with them. I don't think really anybody should. These are just kept in, I think for posterity's sake, that they are a thing that the devs put in. Airship, player can access the airship after leaving Narsh from any Chocobo stable. Doing events out of order causes soft locks, right? Equip everything. Items that are not equipable normally can now be equipped as weapons or shields. These often give strange defensive stats or weapon animations. This is similar to the Game Genie code from when I was a kid that I used that let you, like, equip anything and swing with them and then they do weird shit. I messed with that on Game Genie a long time ago on my Super Nintendo. It can be fun, but this is probably pretty scary in Beyond Chaos. And then Sketch enables the sketch bug, not recommended unless you know what you're doing. If you don't know what the sketch glitch is and how to utilize it, there's no reason to use this either. So these are flags that I would just say avoid entirely. Moving on to the experimental tab. This is where we get interesting. Strange Journey, I'm not going to talk about. I've never done it. A prototype entrance randomizer similar to Ancient Cave mode. Includes all maps and event tiles, and it is usually extremely hard to beat by itself. I've never used it. I don't really know the specifics of what it does, and I don't think I ever will use it. But let's get into all of this cool stuff. This is where the junctions came from. Now, junctions are a giant list of special attributes and traits that are named that your characters can make use of if you have these flags on. Right now, there's a shit ton of them that are discovered, the names of them, what they do, and everything, and the mechanics involved. There are some that have not been discovered yet, exactly what they do. The community is basically on a big scavenger hunt trying to figure that out about them, because Abyssonym has made a big gain out of it. Like, this was his biggest contribution probably to Beyond Chaos in recent memory, where he added all of these junctions, and he tested them to the high heavens, and yeah, sometimes they're buggy, and we report them and tell him what's going on. If we guess right on certain junctions, he'll usually confirm or deny, or tell us if we're close. It's kind of fun. I like the idea of the community getting together and trying to figure out what these do instead of just being outright told what they do. But most of them are discovered, so if you want to find them, you can go to the Discord, and in the pins on the general channel, it will say known junctions and their effects, and it's a big spreadsheet of everyone we know so far. Let's get into the flags for them. Before we get into junctions, let's talk about Esper QGF. I haven't used this yet, but its characters gain the traits of equipped Espers. Casters can change equipped Esper mid-battle. That's probably the coolest part of this flag, is being able to change them mid-battle. As far as the first part, I'm not sure what that means, so I'm wondering if that means, like, if you can equip Tri-Talk, all of your attacks are going to be Tri-Element, ice, lightning, and fire whenever you attack. Maybe that's what it is, or it's the traits of the spells you can learn from them are part of your attacks. I don't know. I haven't used it. I probably will eventually, but I think I will do it in a bingo seed just to test it out. Typically, that's what I do, is I'll do like a short bingo seed with flags that I haven't used before just to see if I like them. Esper effect, I usually use this one, because what this does, it attaches random effects from the Junction Pat set to Esper. So what this means is usually if you get an Esper, it will have 1 to 3, sometimes even 4 junctions attached to it. And it can completely change how your characters play, based on what junctions they are and what they do for that character, and whether or not the character can even equip the Esper. This is a good way to, like, learn about a lot of junctions all at once and their interactions, is because your Espers will usually come with a lot of them attached, and you'll get to try and figure out what they do. So I usually do this one. Effect Moss, attach random effects from the Junction Patch set to equipment, excluding relics. There's a low potential for soft locks. All of these have potential for soft locks, just putting it out there. I haven't had it happen yet, but I know it can happen. Keep that in mind. We'll talk more about this one in a second. Basically puts junctions on your weapons and armor and helmets and stuff too. So yeah, that's really cool. I usually do use this one. Attach random effects from the Junction Patch set to relics. Also, low potential for soft locks. Again, this is an item you can take off and remove, so it's no big deal. If it's going to affect you in a bad way with having that junction equipped, you can just remove it. But that being said, I'm going to skip over these two for a second and talk about them separately. Gigento Jori, I have never used, but if you use this with the Memento Mori flag, what it does is it retains the junction effects of any relic that you have innately. This is where you can run into a really bad problem, right? So let's think, okay, you are in the Cyan fighting the leader spot, right? I think I make this scenario up for the tips and tricks video, but I'll do it here too. So let's say you have Cyan, all right? And he's got a weapon equipped or not, doesn't matter. What you're going to do is try and swing to kill the leader if you have no other option. You have no breaks on in an item command, so you can't break items for spells that can potentially help you. Or you have no breaks off, and you have no items that can break for damaging spells. Okay, so we put him in a bad situation right then. Whatever innate relic he has, let's say it has... Number one, let's just do worst case scenario. The Mass Effect question mark that's on it is auto stop. So you're like, oh, that sucks. But auto stop will eventually wear off. Like, stop will wear off. So that's not a big deal. But let's say that that same relic has a junction attached. If you don't have this on, that doesn't matter. If you find that relic out in the wild, the junction will matter. But the relic that is equipped on that character, innately, the junction will not be in effect. That's why it says high potential for soft locks with this. Let's say that you have this on, and that innate relic junction is Astral. Astral makes it so you can only do MP damage with all of your attacks from this character. You're in a fight with the leader, you only have Cyan on your team, he can only do MP damage, and he literally can't kill the leader. Your game's over. You're just not getting past that now. That's why I don't use this one. So unless you are not worried about having to restart a seed if you get to a certain point, I wouldn't use it. It does the right thing and warns you that there's high potential for soft locks. So talking about Effectster and Tray Effect. Effectster attaches random effects from the junction patch set to monsters, rages, and some statuses. Medium potential for soft locks. So if you get hit with, like, sleep, there might be a junction attached to the status effect sleep that also happens. Monsters that you're fighting will have junctions. You will not be able to scan them to find out what junctions they are. You are just going to have to figure it out based on what's happening in the fight. I don't use this one. I don't think it's stupid. I think it's really fun if you want to try and, like, be investigative while you're playing and be like, oh, well, I bet he's got this. That's cool, but it's not something that I'm interested in doing. Same with Tray Effect. Monsters inherit the junction effects of held items, so not only are they going to be all of this stuff and statuses, but whatever item they have that you can, like, steal from them or they drop will also have junction effects on them. It says medium potential for soft locks. It feels like there's a lot more potential for soft locks than mediums with something like that, because this is all over the place. But if you want maximum chaos, you can do that. It's just you're probably not going to make it through the seed, I don't think. It should be noted that if you do Esper Effect, this gets you the junctions on your Espers, obviously, like I was saying, but it will have a similar effect to this, but only with the Esper fights. So when you fight Tritok, whatever junctions Tritok has on it, when you equip it, the Tritok battle will have those junctions. So you do get a little bit of this with the Esp effect, but it's only for certain fights. So yeah, it's a little safer. But anyway, that is all for all of those tabs for the UI except for the sprites and sprite categories. So we will get right into that in just a moment. I'm going to go get a drink of water. Stay hydrated. Okay, so the sprites tab. So a few of these are meme settings that I'll go over real quick just to give them their due here. Brave New World just turns all the characters in the game into Esperterra Sprite, because she's naked. Kupo Kupo. All party members are Moogles except Mog. With Party Party enabled, all characters are Moogle except Mog, Esperterra, and Imps. And then Quick Draw is named after a beloved member of the community, and it is an inside joke because his subscribers are Imperial soldiers, and none of them have the Rage skill, because Rage is his favorite skill in the game, and he almost never gets it. I can relate, because I have never gotten it. Those are the meme settings. These two are your important ones right here. So, makeovers. Some sprites are replaced with new ones, like Cecil or Zero Suit Samus. Those two, in the parentheses, don't really do it enough justice, because there are literally hundreds of sprites that you can get from all kinds of different media and video games and everything. I think pretty much every Final Fantasy Record Keeper sprite is in there, so yeah, a ton of characters. What this does is it replaces sprites for your characters, specifically like your 14 characters and some other sprites, I think. The only way to do NPC characters, like the main NPC characters and different statuses, is with Party Party. This extends the sprite pool randomization to include Kefka, Trooper, Bannon, Leo, Ghost, Merchant, Esperterra, and the Imperial Soldier. When you morph, you'll be a different sprite. When you get imped, you'll be a different sprite. Kefka will not necessarily be Kefka that you're fighting against. It could be, who the hell knows, Link. It could be Mario, you know, and Bannon, and same for Leo, Ghost, all that stuff. Those are the two that you would want to do if you wanted, like, max sprite randomization for, like, fun chaos stuff. And we'll talk more about these in a second. when I go into the in-depth tutorial on how to quote-unquote customize your Sprite pool, because there are some hurdles there. I use no vanilla, because if you just don't click this, you will always get at least one sprite of a vanilla character on your team. So you might have a bunch of different characters from a bunch of different games, and then suddenly you'll always have Setzer or Terra or somebody. Maybe you don't want that. Maybe you do want that. But I always click this one. And if you don't click it, you can click French vanilla, which makes it so the chances of you getting a like generic vanilla sprite are equal to getting the other sprites. I just do no vanilla because I don't want to see the vanilla sprites unless I really, really want them to be vanilla. In which case, there are other sprites in the sprite pool that can substitute for them from the randomized sprites that we'll get into how to like customize that if you want. And then you have Clone Party. This used with Makeover to have the randomizer actively try to choose sprite versions of the same characters. So this is like, so let's say Princess Garnet. There's 3 sprites of her in the sprite pool. You have her in her dress, you have her in her white mage hood, and you have her in her garb that she's in when she's on your team in FF9, right? So those are clone characters because they're all the same character, just different costumes, right? If this is off, it will only pick one of those for one of your characters, and it'll try not to give you another one. If you click this, it'll actively try to pick characters that are the same character but slightly different, you know? So that's just a preference thing, if you want to do that. So anyway, we are going to move forward with just, for now, Makeover and Party and no vanilla clicked. So let's move on to the Sprite Categories tab. These are all of the categories of sprites that are in the list of sprites that it can pull from. Object, kids, girls, anime, boys, generic, and animals. And these options, no, hate, like, and only. So let's say you're wanting to do like a ladies' night out seed like I've done before. You would go to girls and you would put only. So that disables the chance of the randomizer pulling any characters into the sprite pool that do not have the girls tag. Like means that there's just more of a chance for girl sprites to pop up. Hate means that there's less of a chance for girl sprites to pop up. And no means that no girl sprites will pop up. And that's the same for every category. I usually keep all of these at normal because that's what you want to leave it at if you're trying to do like customization for your sprite pool, which we will get into now. Let me bring up the text document. So to reach this text document right here, you will navigate to your Beyond Chaos folder. You will go to the custom folder. In the custom folder, there will be a sprite replacements.txt. What that is, this is how the randomizer determines which sprites are available to randomize into. You can basically go into this text document and edit it to exclude almost any sprite you want and create your own category of sprites for the ones you like. The way you do that, let's find a character that we think is really, really cool, like Agrius. I love Agrius, she's bad as hell. So right here at the end of Agrius's character sprite line, all of these commas and stuff, at the very end, I'm going to put two-tone faves, okay? What you will do now is you will save, and you can do this for multiple sprites, just so you know, but I'm just going to do one to show you what happens. So you will save now, and you will exit out. Now you'll reopen your UI. And it's very important that you don't move that sprite replacements folder out of, or that sprite replacements text file out of the custom folder, because then it will not work. But as you can now see on the UI, there is a new category, and it's called two-tone faves. And now you can adjust the probability of selecting that category's sprites with all of the same parameters for the other ones. So we just created a category that contains only Agrius's sprite. But you can do that for the entire list and just put your suffix at the end of it and have your very own personalized category. For a lot of my runs, I like to make sure that I get very specific sprites, or close to specific sprites, on my team. Let's say you don't want party, right? You don't want to randomize Kefka and all these guys. Because you want every random sprite that's in your list, in your category, to be ones that you get on your team. That isn't stolen by somebody like Bannon, who steals like all of the coolest sprites, I swear to God. So, in this specific case, I will show you what to do. We are going to close our UI again, and we are going to reopen our text file. Okay, so for the purposes of this one, let's get rid of the two-tone faves category. If you want to make sure that you get sprites that you want for those 14 characters, you can't really decide where they appear. You can only decide whether or not you get them. I'm sure there's a way in like the Python script that you could probably manipulate it for a Randomizer, for where you find them, what they have, stuff like that, but that is not what I'm talking about. All I'm talking about is how you can make sure that the sprites you want, you get. Let's just say the top 14 sprites are the ones we want. And they definitely aren't, but let's just say. So what you want to do, what I have found the most success doing, is delete every other sprite in here besides the 14 sprites that you want. So let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So let's just pretend that there's no multiple Eris here. Okay? These are all different character sprites, for the sake of what we're doing. Because if you did this, you would have to do the clone party flag as well for it to work. Let's pretend every one of these are different sprites and none of them are like similar character adjacent, right? So let's delete every other sprite in here and get down to just 14 sprites. As you can see, there are a lot of sprites in Beyond Chaos. So, and there could be more if you learn how to sprite and you make a sheet and submit it. Alright, so now we have a list of 14. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Now you might think that's all there is to it. Now you only have 14 sprites in the text file, and those are the only 14 sprites that Beyond Chaos can pull from. And you've only randomized your 14 characters. Makes sense, right? It's gonna pull those. Not necessarily, because the game does still try to randomize your random sprites into locations of the proper gender in the main game. So your Terra spot, right? The randomizer will attempt to always put one of these sprites that has the female tag in that spot. So you are going to run into that problem, and what will happen is when you're rolling a seed, it will pop up and say, could not find a custom sprite for this slot using vanilla sprite, which is what you don't want to happen. You want to have the 14 you picked, okay? The way that I have found to skirt around this, and what works more often than not, is to go here to replace in just your edit tab for the text document. Okay, so here we go. We got our little find and replace, okay? So what you want to type in here first, don't type male. That's the second one you want to type. Type female, okay? And you want it to find all of them and replace all of them with neutral, okay? The reason that you don't do male first, is because then you will have all of your female tags will say fee neutral. So, because it will have replaced the male part of the tag. So just do female first, replace with neutral, replace all. So that just replaced everything in this that says female with neutral. I don't think any of these characters are male, but if they were, you would then go and do male, replace all, neutral. Okay, Algus is a male. I overlook Algus because I hate him. So now, when you close out of this, now that you have saved it with all your neutral tags and all 14 of your characters, all you have to do when you bring the UI back up is set all of the sprite categories to normal. You don't have to worry about anything else. Now you have 14 sprites that you want in your text file, no other sprites, and they're all tagged at neutral, which means BC can put them anywhere that's possible to put a sprite, instead of trying to aim for the correct gender. Okay, and this works more times than anything else. The most consistent way of doing it. This is how I get, you know, like I was able to do the All-Star seed and the Null-Star seed, is I got to pick the characters from the history of my Beyond Chaos runs that I wanted for that seed. The only drawback is that in order to do that, you cannot randomize Kefka, Leo, Bannon, and all them unless you include 22 sprites in the pool, and then you also might not get to play as the ones that you really want to, because Kefka might have them, or Leo might have them, or even worse, the Imp Sprite might have it, you know. Just remember that if you want to customize your sprite pool, either make your own category and just let BC do the rest, like I showed you first. If you aren't using Party, do 14 of them, change them all to neutral, and roll your seed. If you want all of the characters to have random sprites that you get to pick, you need at least 22 sprites if you're using Party. You should probably go and make them all neutral as well, just to make sure it works. If it doesn't work for you, I'm sorry. Sometimes BC gonna BC, and it's gonna be like, really, the UI really doesn't like you doing this. You just have to kind of troubleshoot and work around it. But I hope that answers some questions on like how to customize your own sprite pool, because I know a lot of people want to know how to do that, and I hope this stands the test of time to like be there for you to reference back to if you're trying. Also, just a side note, like we talked about with, because there's so many heiresses there, if you do multiple different sprites of the same character within your 14 or 22, make sure you click Clone Party. And sometimes Clone Party is required to click anyway, and you won't find out until after you've tried to roll a seed and you see it's putting vanilla sprites in. So, yeah, all kinds of stuff involved with that, but that's the best amount of information I've got on it, and I hope it helped. That's the UI. Of course, all of those are my preferred flags and my preferred way to play. You do not have to play how I play. I just wanted to show you and maybe explain, at least in a little detail, what the different flags do. Come on, Fury Cat. There you go. You can hang out with me for the rulebook part. Or not. Alright, so let's get into my personal rulebook. You've seen what kind of flags I like to use. Now let's talk about the kind of rules that I like to impose upon myself for more fun gameplay and a much richer Beyond Chaos experience. So first of all, I need to address the number one rule, as always, which is don't trust dinosaurs. Now, this is less of a prevalent thing ever since Remonstrate was integrated into Beyond Chaos, but before that, when you just had like vanilla enemy sprites running around all the time, dinosaurs are scary. If anything pops up looking like a Tyrannosaur, a Brachiosaur, anything vaguely resembling a dinosaur, you can expect Ultima, Meteor, Fallen One happened to me, Quasar, Grand Train, any big scary attack. Fucking Overcast happened to me once. It was like an unrunawayable fight. It also had 65535 HP. Yeah. Don't even remember how the hell I got out of that one. Dinosaurs are spooky. Don't trust them. Even if they seem nice, don't take the bait. They're trying to get you to lower your guard so they can chuck rocks at you. That is the number one rule of Beyond Chaos. Don't trust dinosaurs. Moving on to the substantial rules of my rulebook, let me first address two items that are outright banned in all of my runs. They actually have been banned for a while. You can go back and find a couple of seeds where I was still using them, but those experiences convinced me to just totally ban these items. And that is the dice and the fixed dice. Number one, just the dice, okay? Finding them in the world of balance. That is non-elemental, doing hundreds of damage. Most of the time you find a way to dual wield, and dice can be bought places. Chances are you probably found something that does X-Fight too. So you're throwing 8 rounds of just dice and doing a bunch of damage, okay? This problem is just exacerbated with the fixed dice, because what basically ends up happening is whatever character you have that can equip fixed dice, that is just what that character is now. There's no reason to ever use their skills ever again. the fixed dice is huge non-elemental damage. Like, that is just becomes what that character is. So if you had developed any, like, fun stuff to do with them, their skills and everything, suddenly you find out they can equip fixed dice, well, forget all that. This is all they're doing forever. Also, if they're throwing them 8 times, chances are most fights, your other characters are not going to get to do anything either, because the freaking fixed dice are just going to wipe any mobs because they're so strong. Even when you get low to mid rolls, they're still good because you got, what, 6 more attacks, 7 more attacks with them? Chances are you're going to hit for like 8,000 at some point. Like, yeah, the fixed dice just does the one thing that my rulebook really tries to counteract is, as I said in the UI part of the video, homogenized gameplay. It just takes away from all individuality of the character that can equip them, because now they're just the fixed dice user, you know? So I ban dice and fixed dice forever. It just ends up boring to me. That doesn't have to be for you guys, but I don't use them. I'm also not a permadeath runner either. If I did permadeath, I probably would not have a rulebook. I would just use everything available to me, but I don't play permadeath. So if you do get into permadeath, don't take any. Don't even think about using my rules. But anyway, yeah, those are the 2 100% banned items for my rules. Moving on, let's talk about items banned in the world of balance. So first, let's talk about the obvious one, the Paladin Shield. The Paladin Shield is not only banned in my runs until after the World of Balance, it's actually banned all the way up until I get all of my characters back. As you know, the Paladin Shield is one of the most busted pieces of equipment in Final Fantasy history, and it is the strongest piece of equipment in Final Fantasy VI. Even if it has drawbacks, its defenses are so good that whatever. And it just makes, if you end up getting a Paladin Shield early, or God forbid, finding an enemy that drops them reliably, and then you just end up equipping all of your characters with Paladin Shields, the rest of the game is just going to be not even close to a challenge, not going to be fun. You're just going to survive everything and never be in a situation where you have to, like, worry about how you're going to get through something. And I don't like that. I have a lot of restrictions on the Paladin Shield. Not only is it banned all the way until I get all of my characters back, it is also limited to a total of 2 of them. 1, if you find it just on its own, like if you can bet in the Coliseum and get it, and you just find a Paladin Shield, and 1, if you find a Curse Shield and uncurse it. 2 Paladin Shields at max. If I find more than that, I don't use them. Also, the Minerva is banned until the World of Ruin, because the Minerva is basically just a Paladin Shield without being quite as good. Same goes for the Behemoth Suit. Even if the Behemoth Suit rolls something bad on it or something like that, the stat increases that it gives you are just really, really good and kind of overpowered for the World of Balance, if you ask me. The Illumina and Ragnarok. Obviously, big, dumb, stupid sword swings that do a shit ton of damage would probably steamroll most of the things in the World of Balance if you get it early. And then the Economizer and Economizer effects. Anything that gives you a 1 MP cost. Okay, let's move on to banned spells in the World of Balance. There is one caveat to this list. If I get these spells as a command that a character has, not in like a list, like a magic list, I will use them, no matter when I get them. If a character gets an Ultima command, that's their special thing they can do. They didn't just learn it naturally in their magic list. I didn't get an item teaching me Ultima. That's just what BC gave them as their thing. In that case, I will use these banned spells. Otherwise, if it's just some other way I got it, these are 100% banned in the World of Balance. Starting with Ultima. Obviously, it's the strongest magic attack in the game. Pierces defense, does huge freaking damage. Same goes for Grand Train and Quasar. Those 2 are also banned, even if I find them from an enemy that does the lore and I have my lore user. If it ends up in their list, I cannot use those spells until the World of Ruin. Meteor is the same way. Big, dumb, non-elemental damage. Up until the World of Ruin, I don't want to be using stuff like that because it is literally just going to trivialize the game. Restricted spells that I will talk about. These are ones that chances are I will find a narrative reason while I'm playing to not use very much, or to limit their use heavily. So anything just over the top busted, like Fallen One, Engulf, or Sneeze, or Escape. Basically anything that makes you instant win a fight. works on everything, including Final Kefka. You can engulf Final Kefka. You can sneeze in Final Kefka. You can fall in one him and then hit him once and win. Things like that, I will limit their use. Big time. They're not exactly banned, but they are soft banned. I want to talk about Quick. Quick is a spell that is on the chopping block. I have not decided yet. Sometimes you will get into a situation. Quick is one of the only chances you have to beat Final Kefka. So I keep it unbanned for now, but it is on the chopping block and I think it falls under the limited use. What I will probably say is that Quick is banned all the way up until Final Kefka. That seems like a good cutoff point. That's a new spell added to the rulebook. Quick is totally banned until the fight with Final Kefka, like the final boss. Not like Final Kefka at the top, but the whole final boss, Quick, is banned until then. There is still a spell that is under review. It has been under review since last rulebook I made like a year ago, because I still can't really decide. It tends to happen a lot, which is the reason why I consider it for a ban. Hyperdrive from a Magitech list. You always get access to Magitech in some way. So someone will likely have Magitech. And Hyperdrive is just unreasonably powerful, single target, non-elemental damage. And it happens so frequently that Hyperdrive ends up in a Magitech list, and it even in the Magitech list that isn't the Terra characters Magitech list that has more of a chance for it, it can even pop up in the regular Magitech list. It is one that is still under review. It hasn't happened since, I don't think. Since I put it under review, I haven't gotten it. So that is why it is still kind of just being considered. But for now, it's safe. A future rulebook, I'm not sure. So let's talk about junctions a little bit. I don't have any bans on junctions right now. Previously, I would have said something like quickening, I guess, but that has been nerfed since it came out. So, and even then, I don't think I banned it. I think I went by the same thing I'm going to go by here, which is what I call the vibes clause. If it feels too busted, it probably is. It will pretty much just be by feel. If I'm playing a seed and it just seems like something is way too overpowered junction-wise, then I will likely stop using it or limit its use. And the final rule is have fun. Whatever you do playing BC, you have to have fun. If you're not having fun, why the hell are you even doing it? And I always have fun with BC. I'm always excited to start a new seed. While I'm playing a current seed, I get excited about the next seed. Anyway, guys, that is my updated rulebook for 2025. I hope the UI section helped you out if you were curious. And yeah, I guess we'll do another one of these next year. Hopefully the UI has not, I know it's funny to say this, that I hope there isn't like a huge update, but hopefully the UI is not updated by next year so I don't have to go over all those flags again. Because honestly, that is the one part of this video that I'm like, man, that is a lot of talking and a lot of time. But either way, I'm glad I could get it out again for you. And the old rule books now will be obsoleted. I will make sure I put a tag on those that says outdated. This is the updated version. And yeah, I suppose I will see you guys for the next seed. Thanks for watching. Peace.